We can try to block a memory, unresolved memory in the storage unit, uh,
Yeah.
but but it didn't really work. But I was trying that 15 years, so I did not want to talk about it. I was skipping that chapter. And
In this episode, we'll be talking about writing, suicide, and accepting the past as part of your story. We'll dive right into Katja Rusanen's courageous story, understand her process of losing someone she loved and accepting what is into her life. Please be sure to listen in to hear all the details. Hello, my wonderful beasties. It's Tina, your host. Welcome to the Courageous Inner Beast. In today's episode, we have Katja Rusanen, who's a best-selling author, transformational story coach, and spiritual counselor. With over 10 years of coaching experiences, she is here to help coaches and healers overcome their limiting inner stories so they can accelerate their business growth. Thank you, Katja, for joining us. Really
thank
appreciate
you
it.
for thank you for having me.
Of course. So, what is one courageous story that you would like to share today?
Hmm. That is a good question because I love stories and I have multiple stories. Maybe going how I got into this spiritual path and got my inspiration to help others as well to share their stories, because I believe we all have stories that can help others. And I encourage people to find the stories that they can share and as well overcome those limiting inner stories that we might be telling ourselves as we might have gone through some challenging or even traumatic events in our past. And my journey on this path started when I was just 16 years old. I was living in a small village in Finland, so that's where this accent is from. If people are like, where does she come from?
Yes.
And I fell in love for the first time. So maybe you also remember your first love, like all of the sudden, like everything is just so much better and the sun is shining brighter, the birds are singing sweet melodies. And I was really like, wow, this is the sweet 16. But unfortunately, my love story did not have that happily ever after. It ended very suddenly when I heard the news that my boyfriend had died by suicide. And that really crushed me. That news, I was like, no, I can't believe that this has happened. And I really had these moments when you have seen the movies, like everything feels like everything stops.
Yeah.
Like the life was still going on, but I was just frozen to that moment. And I was going through in my mind every word and every event that I could remember, looking for signs, because I was like, how could I not been able to help him? How could I not have seen this coming? Why? Because I'm very intuitive, so I had not seen this. So I was like looking for explanation to help me to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. And you're only 16 too.
I was,
You just
um,
brand new. This is like brand new to love to you too.
yeah, exactly. And those emotions when you are a teenager, they are so
Mm.
strong. And it felt like really end of the world. And it almost was the end of the world for me because I went to a very dark place because I felt like it was all my fault. I should have saved him. Somehow, magically, I should have known and I should have saved him. I should have stopped him. And, uh, and I started carrying this self-blame. And that was so, so heavy that there was a moment in my life, like I was like, I can't take this pain, that I wanted to end my own life. But luckily, there was a spark of light entering into my very dark mind on the 11th hour that reminded me of my mom and dad. And I was like, I just can't pass this pain to them. Like, even though I was suffering a lot, I felt like I just can't do this for them. And
Yeah.
that helped me to turn back and choose life and continue the journey and continue my life. And luckily, I found some spiritual teachings that helped me to start understanding life from different perspectives, soul's perspective. And they were like glimpses of light that helped me to continue and move forward.
Okay.
So that's one journey how I got that. And that later on gave me the inspiration then to start helping others who might be going through challenging times. But it took me a long time, to be honest, to be able to share.
Yeah. How many years did it take from when you were 16 to finally having that spark in you, especially like the thought of like for your parents? How long was that? Was that years, months, maybe weeks? Or
I wished I would have been just weeks, but I started my healing journey from the moment saying yes to life. And I think that was one of the bravest thing I have ever done, to continue living when you wanted to die.
yeah.
And then my coping mechanism back then was then I did not want to talk about it. And I was like, okay, I choose to live. I choose to continue here, but I can't handle these things. So I'm storing them in the storage unit, never go there.
Yeah.
And blocked as much as I tried. It doesn't really work though.
Yeah.
Like we can try to block a memory, unresolved memory in the storage unit,
Yeah.
but it didn't really work. But I was trying that 15 years, so I did not want to talk about it. I was skipping that chapter from my life. Like if I met new people, I did
Yeah.
not share that with them usually.
Yeah.
And I think that's often when challenging things happen, we find our own ways to deal with that. And that was my way. And then, you know why I started this journey then? I needed somebody to ask me a question.
Wait, what kind of
And
question? Okay.
because, you know, this is like, when you're at crossroads in life, what do you do? Well, my thing was like, I went to a palm reader. So normal thing to do, hey?
Yeah.
Like, you find answers. So I
Yes.
was like, okay, maybe there is something in my palms. And he was saying so many accurate things. And then all of a sudden he was asking me like, why don't you write?
Right?
And yeah, and then I was like, he knows I have a story to tell. It was stirring something inside of me.
Yeah.
And since he has said so many accurate things, I just was like, whoa, he knows. He knows this story that is stored in the unit, never go there. And I promised there and then to him that when I go home, I will start writing. And I did. And that night I started my first novel, which was based on true events. And then it was adding some fictional stuff. But like the core event in my first novel was what I went through. And it was so healing. That writing process, like seeing things from like bit different perspective, because when you're using it to write a novel, but being able to express through writing, it was opening a Pandora's box, which was
Yes.
like, oh no.
You're like, oh, I didn't see this coming. What? I didn't see. So you're just very like Pandora's box. You did not know what was gonna come up at all.
I know. But it is like whatever way, like for people, if they have gone through challenging life experiences, finding their way to express, whether it's music, art. For me, it was writing.
Yeah.
And then I started also shifting the story, because I believed like I wasn't enough, because I was not being able to save my boyfriend.
Yeah.
So I carried that not enoughness around with me. And then I started to see that life actually happened. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me. Like this was an opportunity for me to grow and learn and use this for my upliftment. And
Yeah,
that was the moment when I wanted then to start sharing the lessons I have learned. And that
yeah,
gave me the spark to start speaking about it. So that's why we are also here now connected, because before, no way, I would have not talked about it. But it was just like, okay, maybe my story can help somebody else, and that gave me the inspiration.
yeah. Ugh, I can't. There's no like literally no words because it's like everyone has their own experiences. Like hearing your story, it just at 16,
Mm,
you're just starting and then something, your boyfriend at the time committed suicide and now you're trying to learn 15 years later, how do I open the story up with through writing and learning that you can keep growing. Like you don't have to exist and just that life, like you said, not like what happened in life to you, but for you. I think that's what
mhm.
you're saying. Like you can make the choice to move forward and use this as inspiration for other people to do what they need to do. And
That's
so
right.
yeah. And I'm curious of what was happening when you first start, so when you went home after visiting the palm reader and you started writing, what were some feelings and thoughts that were coming up as you were writing?
Oh my goodness, it was it was a really emotional roller coaster. Of course, there was a lot of grief and sadness I still was processing then when I was started to write. But there was also some funny, joyful memories like that made me laugh that I put in the book. Like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like we were listening to song in his car and like kind of that kind of fun memories as well. So there also came like that love that, and I believe that we can still be connected in the soul level, even though people are not here.
Mm,
So it felt like it brought me some sort of closure as well when I started writing, like completed writing. Maybe the closure came when the books were done and feeling more peaceful with my past. It wasn't anymore this deep, dark secret that I needed to hide.
yeah,
Like little by little, I gained the courage and confidence to share and be in peace with my past.
yeah, sharing peace and yeah, just bring that peace to other people, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Yeah, because
no, no, yeah, it's, I have no words on that still.
yeah, because what I wanted to say is like we all have our journeys, and my life story is yes, it was like life and death
Yeah,
sort of experience, but we experience things differently, and we
yeah,
all have stories that can impact others. It doesn't always need to be that from extreme than my story is, because there are people going through all kind of situations in life, and when we share our story, we can give them hope, we can give them light, we can give them inspiration that it's possible to find a way through the challenging situation where they are. And that is the beauty and the power that we have when we share stories. And I love what you are doing here as well, like inviting people and asking about their stories.
yes. Because thank you. And yeah, like sharing your story, I believe too is the same as you, is you are there to share stories to bring light to what you went through and
Hmm.
then using that to spread goodness to everyone else
Yeah.
too. Yeah. And it's really it's really hard to even just getting through that as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Earth School, how I see this place. It's not easy always, but we can learn so much while we are here. We can learn through our emotions, our mind, through this whole human experience. And it is as well like when we tap into seeing if we have gone through challenging life experiences, if we check in, like, what am I learning? And often that comes a little bit later, because when we are in the midst, it might be challenging to see the lessons we are learning. It's just might feel like life just sucks and like
Yeah.
it's all that emotion. But later on, you can start looking into like when you start moving into life happened for me state, that might be when you start seeing, hey, there might have been something good that came out of that challenging experience, that I learned something. I personally, experienced growth or
Yeah.
whatever it might be for you.
Yeah.
So
Wait, so are you
that's,
saying
uh, yeah.
so are you saying more of what happened in your past, you take it with you, like you don't forget about it, but use what you experienced, what you learned in the past to bring in the future of becoming what you want to be, right? Something like
Yeah,
that.
because if you have discovered how to forget your past, let me know. Like, I tried very hard for 15 years, but it did not work for me. So then I was like, okay, like we can't like unmake our past, but we don't need to be stuck in our past. Because
Yeah.
often when we are not processing, like when we are not just working through those emotions, working through our mind, sometimes we are prisoners of the past. As much as we want to forget it, we are living it. I was living it over and over and over again in my head.
Yeah.
Uh, it the change started when I actually started feeling my feelings instead
Yeah.
of having them in that storage unit. That
Yes.
didn't really work either. But I tried. I have tested this. So, but then really feeling the feelings, and even though they might feel that they are so painful, often the feelings are like the peak emotion feeling won't last that peak level long time. Like if
Yeah.
you're really angry, check the clock, how long you're gonna be that super angry. And if you want the easy way, go to hit boxing bag with the safe way. If you know, learn how to do. I can't hold that level of anger a long time because I get exhausted and then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good now. So,
No, I've had that feeling too whenever I get angry. I'm a person that sometimes just holds in the anger for a long time.
mm,
I mean, maybe not that long for a whole day, but already an hour, 2 hours feels too long already. I just want to be kind of just let my feelings, not be, let my anger be only for 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes and say,
mhm,
okay, I don't need to be angry anymore. And so I understand what you mean by looking at the clock. You're saying, how long have I been angry versus, also channeling that anger outside
mhm,
or in other ways like writing like you said or journaling or even talking to someone, going to a
mhm.
boxing class or whatever, to just release it all
Yeah,
and then be at peace again at
yeah,
where you're at,
because
you
that's
know.
possible. The only
Yeah.
mystery is the time sometimes,
Yeah,
but the
time is
peace is possible.
yes, it's very, and yeah, like I said, if you're looking at the time of how long you've been angry for whatever reason, the
Mhm.
time that you had there, you could use that for something not angry, something that you want to feel versus
Yeah.
ruminating through it for so long,
Hmm.
you know?
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah. it's yeah, like feeling the feelings is what we need to do for ourselves.
That helps.
Yes.
Definitely.
No, it definitely does. It definitely does. But yes, thank you so much for sharing your story. My sharing your story, Katya. I really, really appreciate it, and I really do believe our listeners would appreciate it. And if you could leave one quote or takeaway for our audience, what would it be?
I would say your past does not need to equal your future.
Mm.
So, whatever you have gone through in the past, just know that it does need to mean that you need to keep reliving that experience. You can discover joy of living again. You can discover love again. You can just find that inner peace. It's possible.
Thank you. Oh, that's yeah. Oh. Thank you for sharing that too. It's yeah, you your past is where it's supposed to be in the past. And you can find love again. Even at such a young age, you can find love again.
Yeah.
And thank you for the hope and encouragement of that, of your quotes. I really do hope it will reach out to many others around you and on our podcast too. But thank you so much for joining in again, Katya.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And thank you everyone for listening. And if you enjoy this podcast, please hit the follow button wherever you're listening and look out for new episodes every Tuesday on the Courageous Inner Beast. Thank you for listening in. If you enjoy our conversation and would like to get connected with Katja Rusanen, please look in the description and show notes for more information and links.